It's baffled scholars for 2 millennia. It is a puzzle made of multi-dimensional elements, an enigma with roots that reach back to the dawning of time, perhaps before. Daniel explained part of it. Ezekiel and Isaiah had glimpses into it. John saw it all for the time of the end. That time is now. Join Derek and Sharon Gilbert on a journey that spans the course of history, from Eden to Mount Hermon, from Hermon to Babel, from Babel to Rome, from Rome to the cross, and from there to us. Biblical prophecy is coming true before your eyes, and to understand it, you must discern the times both then and now. It's time to unravel the threads of this all-encompassing prophetic paradox. It's time to unravel Revelation.
The Valley of the Travelers. Welcome to Unraveling Revelation from Skywatch TV. I'm Derek Gilbert.
I'm Sharon Gilbert, and we're delighted that you have chosen to spend some time with us today. We've been told that there are some groups that actually use this as their Bible study.
That is so humbling because I feel like week to week I'm learning as we go. And so for God bless you if you're learning as we're learning, because I feel like the piano teacher who barely knows. As long as I can stay one lesson ahead, I'm good.
But that is the, and I'm going to have to get a Kleenex. That is the, I don't have one. Anyway, I'll be fine. That is the brilliant part of studying the Bible, is that you never get it all. You're always a student. You're always finding something new. And as many times as I've read through these scriptures, in fact, last week you probably noticed that there was something I said, no, we need to back up to Isaiah 13 because I found something new today. Every day, it's like that for me.
Yeah, well, it's like that for me too, and it's so exciting when it happens because it's just a reminder how rich the Word of God is and how much He's included in here for our edification and encouragement. If we just dig in, and you don't need to be a credentialed scholar because, well, Sharon's a scholar, but I'm not. And if we can dig into these things and find this with free tools available on the internet, everybody can do it.
Everybody should do this, and you should raise your kids and grandkids to want to dig into the Bible. Give them a thirst, a hunger for meat.
Well, especially because both of us are science fiction fans. You know, we've been for years, since we were little kids, fascinated by science fiction. I was, Star Trek, that's where I learned to do this. By watching Mr. Spock.
Yeah, well, I could do this.
Which actually is the priestly blessing.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, when you understand the Bible for what it is, which is a long chronicle of a supernatural conflict in which we're all a part, this is like the Lord of the Rings on steroids.
Yeah.
If we truly understand this.
It really is. And when children realize that the mythologies of the world are based on truth.
Yes.
And they can find the truth in the Bible, then they'll start to get excited about it.
Right. And the early church understood this. When you read some of the writings of the early church fathers, and you come across the sections where they write about the gods of the pagans and the heroes, and you realize, wait a minute, they understood that Zeus and the Olympians were real. It's just they were fallen angels.
Yeah.
And the Titans of old were the fallen angels from Genesis 6 who created the giants who, well, suddenly it's like, wait a minute now, if they understood this and they were only 1 or 2 generations removed from the apostles, how did the church deviate from that? Well, there's a story behind that. It began around the 4th century, early 5th century. Augustine took a theory that had been floating around and popularized this idea that we shouldn't really take Genesis 6 literally. It was figurative. The evil sons of Cain mingled with the evil daughters of Cain married the righteous sons of Seth, and that's where we got. That was not the belief for 400 years after the resurrection. It was only really after Augustine, who was brilliant, but he really got the church kind of off track on that regard.
Yeah.
And when you start there and you begin to see that, there are a lot of things in the Bible that only make sense when you realize God was sending messages specific messages to specific entities in the spirit realm. As we talked about Isaiah 14 last week, where you get toward the end of that chapter and God says, I will break the Assyrian in my land. But when you look at the Hebrew and there's no definite article, the in the Hebrew, it's I will break Asher in my land. Well, Asher was just the Assyrians' name for Enlil or El of the Canaanites.
Yeah.
So this is, again, this already but not yet. And that brings us back to this idea of who exactly is this enemy at the day of the Lord, as we continue with looking at the day of the Lord in Isaiah. But we're going to bring Ezekiel in here because he helps explain some stuff.
Oh, well, go.
Yeah. Well, who, again, was welcoming this entity when he was thrown down?
Where in Ezekiel are you? Because
I'm still in Isaiah 14. I just wanted to bring that back again. Isaiah 14:9, 14:8 actually, because again, you've got the cedars of Lebanon reference there. And again, unless we're dealing with Isaiah having a problem with imported lumber, he's dealing with supernatural entities here. The cedars of Lebanon, since you were laid low, no woodcutter comes up against us. Sheol beneath is stirred up to meet you when you come. It rouses the shades, the Rephaim, the spirits of the Nephilim, the giants destroyed in the flood, all who were leaders of the earth, it raises from their thrones, all who were kings of the nations, etc. What was and as I argued last week, if you missed last week's episode, I believe this chapter is referring to the entity that the Hebrews called Shemiyaza, the chief of the watchers in Genesis chapter 6, not Satan. Satan is the storm god Baal. That's a different entity. Now, Jesus did later say he saw Satan fall from heaven like lightning. So, yeah, you got multiple entities that have been thrown down from heaven for their rebellion.
Well, that's just it. And another one is chaos.
Another one is chaos.
Leviathan.
Right.
So the idea that there's one bad guy, it simplifies things for us because we like it simple, but it's not simple. It was multiple rebellions.
Yeah. Speaking of not simple, I can see as we're talking here, I've been thinking, okay, we got another week because we were going to talk about the seven burning mountains and the seven Anunnaki and this. Well,
let me just take you into a place of a place you weren't expecting.
Well, let me get to Ezekiel first because
this is you just read it, so I have to do it.
Oh, okay, all right.
You talked about the cedars of Lebanon, Libanus.
Yeah, and we actually ran across that in Ezekiel 37.
Yes, but do you know what I thought of when you read through that? What? Not just that the idea that trees are often representing spirits, but the Epic of Gilgamesh.
Oh.
The cedar forest.
Yeah.
That he and Enkidu go into to slay the guardian of the forest, Humbaba.
That is, yes, you're right. There was
just planting that in your brain. And if you know the story at home, don't spoil it for Derek.
Yeah. Okay.
I just read it. That's why it's fresh in my mind.
And one of the things that surprised me was that a very eminent scholar of that literature, Edward Lipinski, Belgian, wrote a paper about 20 years ago on the abode of El, Enlil, etc., and identified Mount Hermon as that location. But he also said that even as far back as the old Babylonian period, which is the time of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that Mount Hermon was considered sacred even as far away as Babylon, which is like 400 miles away. It's a long walk to get to that mountain.
Yeah.
And that it was when in one of the texts of the Epic of Gilgamesh, when they were chasing after Humbaba, they had to enter the forest of Lebanon, Mount Hermon, and they called it the secret dwelling of the Anunnaki.
Yes. Yes. Much research needed.
Yeah. Well, yeah. For some reason, they knew it was a sacred, a very important mountain. The thing that's curious about this is that when you look at a map, the mountains to the east in Iran would have been closer. And many of them are much taller than Mount Hermon.
Yeah.
So why Mount Hermon? But in the Book of Enoch, it was a mountain in the west. It was the west where the end of the world was located, and where that abyss, where the sinful angels were being.
Well, a question I've asked many, many times is why Hermon in the first place? It's not the tallest mountain on earth.
It's not even in the top 100. I mean, yeah, if you're looking for a tall mountain, which makes sense. Okay, that's closer to heaven. That's where the gods would live. But why Hermon?
It's the source of the Jordan. It's right there on the rift.
Yep.
That's why.
Yeah, well, that's a tease of our forthcoming book, The Gates of Hell.
Yeah.
So, well, very quickly then, because I do want to get to that idea of the seven and...
I know.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I just had
No.
because you just read the verse.
We'll
It was only fair.
talk about that in just a little bit. And it was Ezekiel 27 that I was talking about. 27, 26. I'll have to look. It was the reference to Asher that we dealt with in a previous episode. Anyway, the Rephaim spirits, the shades of Isaiah 14. The reason we bring Ezekiel 39 into this is because that's where he places the conclusion of the war of Gog and Magog. And we'll do a deep dive into the war of Gog and Magog at some point.
Oh, yeah.
But
we'll probably spend a couple of months on that.
Right. But in the context of the day of the Lord, which concludes at Armageddon, and we believe, and we've written about this in Giants, Gods, and Dragons, and I've written about it a couple of places.
The day of the Lord's going to come before we ever finish this study. You know that.
We'll see. We'll just test our theories out. It's like, anyway, Ezekiel 39 will be part of a bigger study on the war of Gog and Magog, but there are reasons for believing that war ends at Armageddon.
Right.
But on that day, and again, as a reference to the day of the Lord,
exactly.
I will give to Gog a place for burial in Israel in the valley of the travelers east of the sea, and that's a reference to the Dead Sea. It will block the travelers, for there Gog and all his multitude will be buried. It will be called the valley of Hermon Gog, with the valley of the multitude of Gog. Gog is the Old Testament Antichrist figure. That is the Antichrist. So this army of Gogs is coming against Israel and apparently coming from the east and getting ready to cross over.
Okay, stop for a minute because there may be someone else that's sitting there shouting this at the screen. There are many, Chuck Missler among them, who believe that Gog is a spirit.
Yeah.
So if Gog is the Antichrist entity, and Satan entered into him, into the Antichrist. So are they the same?
No. Where does we have to find the verse where it says Satan enters into the Antichrist?
Into the man of sin?
Yeah.
After he wakes up, after he's been injured. I can find it for you. But yeah, the idea that Satan takes over a human and becomes a hybrid creature. Right.
And I think there's precedent for that with Judas, where Satan entered into Judas.
Yes.
So even though he's not a demon, he can still he can still possess and take control of this entity.
Which means that the person said, yes, you can do that. I mean, you have to. But I'm trying to, and again, you at home, if you're asking the same question, I'm just trying to clarify for me.
Well, again, this... And I think the key point is, remember, is that this is a spirit being first and foremost. And I know that it's taken almost as a given among many prophecy teachers that Gog refers to Russia. He is the chief prince of Rosh and Meshach and Tubal. We went into that I went into that in Bad Moon Rising and Last Clash of the Titans. But there was no place in the 6th century BC when Ezekiel was writing that was called Rosh. It's just a word that means head, like Rosh Hashanah, head of the year, the new year. Rosh just means head. He's the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal. All of the nations of the north mentioned in Ezekiel 38 and 39 deal with entities or people groups who were living in Anatolia, Asia Minor, modern-day Turkey, at that time in history. So the whole world will be coming against Israel in that day. That's what Ezekiel was making clear when he wrote about them coming from the uttermost north, which is a reference to Yarkate Tsephon in Hebrew, Tsephon being the name of the mountain that was the location of Baal's palace. So you've got Satan's palace on top of this mountain, Gog, the Antichrist, emerging from the sea at the beginning of Revelation 13, and they lead an army into Israel. The question is, who are the travelers that are blocked? Why do they call it the Valley of the Travelers? This is that valley between Mount Nebo and Jericho, which was known even in the days of Moses to have spiritual, supernatural significance, because some of the stations in the Exodus refer to the spirits of the dead.
Yeah.
There is Ovoth, which literally means spirits of the dead, and Ayit HaAvarim, ruins of the travelers. Travelers, the key word there, was a term known now from texts found among the ancient Canaanite documents at the city-state of Ugarit, which is northern Syria, referred to the spirits of the Rephaim. the demonic spirits, so the ruins of the Rephaim, essentially, which located right there just northeast of the Dead Sea between Mount Nebo, which in Deuteronomy is called Mountain of the Travelers, Mountain of the Avarim. Probably the dolmens at the base of the hill on which the ancient city of Sodom was located, about 8 miles northeast of the Dead Sea.
Yes.
So right there, you've got this supernaturally charged area, and Ezekiel's saying that's where the army is going to be buried.
And we'll tell you more about that area after the break and how you can see it.
I have spent a lifetime uncovering secrets buried beneath the sands of time by those who want them to remain concealed in mystery. But I did not expect to discover a series of clues from the future that were suddenly made known, the saga of which will now be revealed.
It is the names of the secret society members, the founding fathers that set America on course to an enigma.
Before and after the presidency of Donald Trump, the United States was, and now is again, on a trajectory to fulfill what famous Freemason Manly P. Hall described as the secret destiny of America.
It is the prophecy on the Great Seal of the United States, a scheme hidden in plain sight by the founding fathers for more than 200 years, foretelling the return of a terrifying demonic god who seizes control of Earth in the new order of the ages. The prophecy indicates he will arrive in 2025.
Now, Dr. Horn's research has uncovered an anomaly he never expected to find. Clues 200 years in the making which unlock the riddle of Zeitgeist 2025 and what the world is not ready to receive. Hidden secrets and forgotten prophecies from Qumran forecasting the year 2025 as the final age of man. How the current U.S. government is tied to America's occult destiny. Why historians and intelligence agencies foresee a totalitarian world government by 2025. How America's capital city is laid out to actuate arrival of Antichrist. Zeitgeist 2025.
Welcome back to Unraveling Revelation from Skywatch TV. I'm Derek Gilbert.
I'm Sharon Gilbert, and we teased before the break that you could see the Valley of the Travelers. All you have to do is go to the Jordan extension when you go to Israel with us.
Yes. We've moved the dates to next spring, March 20th through April 4th of 2022. Aaron Lipkin, CEO of Lipkin Tours, says he's confident that the vaccine mandate will be ended by then.
Oh, please, please.
But they promise if you put down deposit money and it turns out that it is still required and you're not open to taking the vaccine, as we are not, your money will be refunded. They understand how we feel about this, and Israel also understands that the main source of tourism, their largest source of tourists, is American Christians, and we're the least likely to want to take that vaccine. So,
and the other thing is that Israel does not want to accept anyone who's been vaccinated with the Chinese vaccine. So you've got a lot of Chinese Christians who want to come in there, and they won't be able to come in either.
That's right. Boy, when we were there before, there were so many Christians from China that were there.
Praise God.
Yeah.
Praise God.
In fact, we saw more from India, Africa, and China than we saw from North America.
That's kind of sad.
Yeah.
That's kind of sad.
You can find out more online and reserve your place at skywatchingisrael.com. And when you go, one of the places is Mount Nebo, from which you can see on a clear day Jericho just across the river, the Dead Sea off to the left. Mm-hmm. If it's really clear, maybe you can see the Mount of Olives, but you can definitely see the little hill that extends into the plain of Moab there, Jordan now, a rich agricultural area, and that was dominated by a big city that was on top of there called Sodom. Mm-hmm. And scholars from the Trinity Southwest University have found convincing scientific evidence that that city was destroyed by an explosion around the time of Abraham, 18th century BC. Just a lot of evidence, too much to go into right here. Mm-hmm. Fascinating stuff. But that, we believe, because there's the largest concentration of dolmens, those megalithic funerary monuments, right at the base of the hill, we're convinced that that is the Valley of the Travelers there, the ruins of the travelers, i.e. Ha'avarim.
Exactly.
Right there.
Well, you can see it from the Mountain of the Travelers.
Yes,
yeah.
Mount
Nebo.
Yeah.
But really quickly, I've been looking, and you know how it is you're sure you've read something in Scripture that after the Antichrist, he has the fatal wound and he wakes up and that's when Satan takes over? Well, that idea is so cemented in my brain, I'm wondering where I read it, but I can't find a verse that says that.
Well,
but I'm sure that that's the idea.
That's why I asked, because I'm not... I don't remember reading that verse.
Because I bet you're sitting there going, no, that's what I was taught too.
Yeah, and it may well be that this is something that was taught and became like the idea that Russia is Gog. But when you dig into the scriptures and look at the history, that equation doesn't fit.
I promise you, I will dig into this, and so next week we'll visit that question, and I'll tell you what I found up front.
Well, and it is an interesting...
And if I'm wrong, I'll admit
it. Well, again, I'm familiar with the idea. I just don't remember where in the Bible it is, or if it's in the Bible. So we'll find out.
It's in my head. Maybe in their heads, too.
The Book of Sharon.
No,
I know.
We won't write that book, no.
So that's where we get this idea that the enemy, coming against Israel in the last days, and the end of the battle of Gog and Magog, and we'll do a deep dive into this at some point, is Armageddon. But so the enemy there, you've got these supernatural beings, the small g gods, and as we discussed, since this occurs after Revelation 9, will include those entities that have been freed from the abyss.
Yes.
Along with these travelers, the demons. So you get a demonic... This is literally an army of the evil dead. This is like the ultimate zombie apocalypse.
Yes, and let me just remind you something I said earlier today as we were talking about this. Because those entities have 5 months to torment mankind, that means that battle has to last for 5 months. So if you're thinking of the Battle of Armageddon as being a one and done, it will be as soon as Jesus arrives. But that battle will probably go on in Jerusalem. In fact, I would argue that at least some of the fighting begins with that moment the Antichrist comes back to life at the midpoint when he goes in and declares himself, the God, and the abomination of desolation takes place midway point in the tribulation week, in that last 7 years. If the Lord's saying, when you see all these things, run, that's midway between. That is 3.5 years left for the remnant, the Jews and maybe those Christians who are with them, the remnant, and by those Christians who have been saved after the rapture. Because Derek and I, believe it or not, we are pre-trib. You may not agree with the way we interpret it, but again, that makes you dig into the Bible, so yay. They're hiding for 3.5 years. The Lord is keeping them out of sight. So it could be that there's warfare for 3.5 years. There's a sort of peace for the first 3.5, and then it may be Katie bar the door for the last 3.5.
Right. And the last 5 months especially, if we're correct in assuming that last 5 months, once the abyss opens.
Yes, it could be that they open up them almost immediately.
Yeah.
And that they're just, I don't know. But if they've only got 5 months, it sounds like that's the last part of it.
It does. We don't know how that 5 months ends because the Bible doesn't tell us, but we will
they don't
find
win.
out.
We know that.
Well, yes, that's the important part.
We do know that.
Yeah. The idea that the Antichrist will have a fatal head wound comes from a couple of places. Daniel 11:45. The Antichrist figure shall pitch his palatial tents between the sea and the glorious holy mountain, somewhere west of Jerusalem then. Yet he shall come to his end with none to help him. And then in Revelation 13, the Antichrist is described as, seven-headed beast, one of the heads appears to suffer a mortal head wound, but is miraculously healed. And so that's the idea.
And that gets into this whole, and we don't have time to unpack all of this now, but it's this idea of the chaos dragon.
The seven-headed
dragon that is wounded by a god,
a warrior
with
god,
a hammer or some kind of instrument. It's just the fake news version of what happens in Genesis.
Right. It's a very old story in Mesopotamia, going back farther in time between those stories and John, as there is between John and us.
Yeah, at the very least, we do know that the Antichrist declares himself to be God.
Right. And interesting, too, the connection of the seven-headed beast or beasts, because we got Satan also described as a seven-headed dragon.
Yeah.
And the seven mountains burning in the netherworld, witnessed by Enoch, this idea that the seven Anunnaki, who were formerly the gods who decree of ancient Sumer, who by the time of Abraham had been relegated to the netherworld.
Sometimes called the Apkallu.
Yeah, and then you got the seven Apkallu, right, who were these sages who brought the gifts of humanity, like the Watchers from Genesis 6, who not only corrupted humanity, and because several of the Apkallu were described as semi-divine, it would appear that they were also able to commingle with humans, like the Watchers, the sons of God from Genesis 6, and of course by teaching us things we weren't supposed to know. Forbidden knowledge that was brought back from before the flood. Babylon was very proud of having preserved that knowledge from before the flood.
I think that's why Babylon, as a dominion, as a government entity, why that has been singled out, because they dared to preserve that.
But I think the other hint, too, as we discussed last week, because Babylon in Hebrew is Bab-El.
Yes, that's my point.
Of the gods.
That's why that government is. But it really means a much bigger idea.
Right. It doesn't necessarily refer to that city that was the home of Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom. It was a spiritual portal.
And if you're sitting there and you're taking notes and you've written down 7 mountains, Apkallu, blah, 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 we're going to really get into that when we discuss the Whore of Babylon.
Yeah. The 7 hills on which she... Yes, there's that connection, too.
Oh, yeah.
There is so much to unpack, and peeling the layers of this onion just reveals more onion.
We don't have enough time.
Sharon's right. The Lord may return before we finish this study.
He's going to knock on the door and go, oh, hey, guys.
I've got an update for you. But there's an interesting story that connects this Whore of Babylon to an ancient entity worshipped in Mesopotamia 3,000 years before Jesus was born, but also what appears to be a power struggle in the fallen realm.
Yeah.
Yeah. We thought we were going to get to that this week. Well,
no.
We'll have to deal with that in an upcoming episode. But it's why the book of Revelation, the whole Bible, is so fascinating. And we're thankful that you're coming along on this journey with us. This is Unraveling Revelation from Skywatch TV.
Unraveling Revelation is part of Skywatch TV, a viewer-supported ministry. To learn more about Skywatch TV and the work of our sister ministry, Whispering Ponies Ranch, please visit our website, skywatchtv.com. And please join us for our weekly study of the Bible, verse by verse in chronological order, online at gilberthouse.org.